If you look at this map that's behind me in most of my videos, you'll see that this body of water is called the Gulf of Mexico. But if you're in the USA and you look at Google Maps today, you'll see that it's labeled the Gulf of America, which is the result of Trump's Executive Order 14172. But does he actually have the right to change the name of this? In the USA, the Board on Geographic Names is what determines, well, geographic names. It's part of the Department of the Interior. And the executive order instructed government agencies like the BGN to recognize this as the official name. And Mexico's president has criticized it, saying he has no legal right to change the name in other places. And, well, she's right. The name hasn't changed in Mexico. It's still called the Gulf of Mexico in other places. And because it's an executive order, that means it's not a law. So the next president has no obligation to follow on with it. But whether executive order or law, the US government has never been able to tell Google Maps what to put on its maps. It's a private company, it can do whatever it wants. But Google has always followed a policy of showing the name that is used in the place that you're viewing it from. Perhaps the most famous example of this is showing different borders for Kashmir, whether you're using Google in Pakistan or India. Many places, especially bodies of water that have multiple countries along this water, have different names for them. So it's not all that unusual that there should be a name change. In fact, it wasn't always called the Gulf of Mexico either. That was a political move by the Spanish Empire to lay claim to everything that was around the Gulf. Many of the local indigenous peoples had different names for it. The Maya called it Chactamal, meaning the red place, and early Spanish maps called it the North Sea or the Mexican Sound. Whatever you call it, it is a political statement. And now the statement is, if you're conservative in the US, you're probably going to call it Gulf of America. But if you're in opposition to the current president, then you're probably going to keep calling it the Gulf of Mexico. But should this name also be more unifying for both the US and Mexico? Because in Spanish and Mexico, they consider all of this the continent of America. In fact, I have a whole playlist where people argue that all of this is America and Mexico is America as well. So shouldn't Mexicans like this change? Well, no, because now it's clear that referring to it as the Gulf of America is using the word America to mean the USA. But at the end of the day, no matter what it's called by your government or your map app, they can't affect the way you actually speak. You can call it whatever you want to. I think the question for the future is, once this executive order expires and a new president takes office, will the government change the name back? What do you guys think?